Answers for review for our test Friday. Number 1, the quotient of a number n5 added to 12. Okay, so I'm going to start by breaking it down. Quotient means divide. So I'm going to know I'm going to divide something, and it tells me what I'm dividing. It says the quotient of a number, so I'm dividing a number and 5. A number I would call x. 5 is just 5, and I'm dividing those two things. Then we have added, that's plus, and 12. So my final problem, I would write x divided by 5 plus 12. All right, number 2 says 11, that's easy. Less than means subtract, and we're going to flip it. And it's less than the product, that's multiplication. Then here it tells me what I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply a number, x, and 8. So these two things will be multiplied. So 11 minus 8x, because I'm multiplying those two things. And then I have to flip it because of my less than. So my final answer would be 8x minus 11. All right, number 3. 3 says to select the correct equation and write it next to the scenario it represents in the column labeled. Oh, the column labeled equation. Next, show your work, solve the equation, and write that in the solution column. So let's look at all of this. So I have 4 different problems, but I have 6 choices. So I have to match the equation with the scenario that goes with it, then solve the equation and write my solution. Alright, George had $12 to spend on 5 pencils, that's important. After buying them, he had $2, that's important. Then how much did each pencil cost? So a pencil is going to be X. So I'm looking up above. George had $12 to spend on 5 pencils. So 5 pencils would be 5X. Now this is tricky because there's not a lot of things to help us. But he had $12, he spent 5. So if he started with 12 and he spent money on 5 pencils, the result was he only had $2 left. So this would be my equation. 12x minus 5x, 12 minus 5x would equal 2. And that's this equation here, so I'm going to use him. And then I would solve. I would subtract 12 on both sides and get negative 5x equals negative 10. Divide by negative 5. And then my solution would be x equals positive 2. Now in my second one, it says you bought a magazine for $5, so 5 is important. 2 erasers, that's important. And you spent a total equals $12. How much did each eraser cost? So eraser in this case is X. So I look, bought a magazine for $5 and I bought 2 erasers, so 2X. Spending a total of $12. So in this case, I'd have my magazine plus my 2 erasers would equal to my $12 total. And that would be my top one. 5 plus 2x equals 12. And now I can solve. Subtract 5 on both sides. 2x will equal 7. Divide by 2 on both sides. And it looks a little tricky, but we're actually going to get a decimal. X will equal $3.50. Alright, Jill sold half of her comic book and then bought 5 more. She now has 12 comic books. With how many did she begin? So X would be the amount of comic books Jill started with. Okay, so Jill sold half of her comic books, so half of her starting collection, and half would be 1/2 X, or X over 2. Those are the same exact thing. And then looking at my answers, I see that I only have X over 2, so I know I'm going to want to use this version and not 1/2 X. but they are the same. So she did half, or sold half of her comic books, x over 2, and bought 5 more, so we're adding 5 to her collection, and it equals a total of 12. And that would be this equation, x over 2 plus 5 equals 12, and I can solve it. Subtract 5 on both sides, x over 2 equals 7, and multiply by 2, x will equal 14. Then our last part, Mr. Enigma said, 5 less than 1/2 of my age is 12. How old is Mr. Enigma? Okay, so that's what we're trying to find. And let's see, we have 5 less than, I'm going to have to flip it, so write myself a note. 1/2 of his age, well his age is x, and half of his age is x over 2, is equals, and then 12. So I'm going to start with x over 2, because that's what goes in the front. Subtracting 5, I've already switched it, it's going to equal 12. And that equation is here, x over 2 minus 5 equals 12. So I never used 2x minus 12 equals 5, or 12 plus 5x equals 2, and that's okay. I'm only using the ones I need. So now I'm going to solve this. And I have x over 2 equals 17, multiplied by 2. X equals 34, which means Mr. Enigma is 34 years old. Alright, let's keep going. Now we're looking at distributive property. These ones are not bad. So number 4, distributing 3 to the x, and I'd get 3x. And distributing 3 to the negative 9, minus 27. And number 5, 7 times 4x is 28x. And 7 times positive 2 is plus 14. And that is the end of the first page.